In the summer of 1863, the American Civil War had raged for 2 long, brutal years. The Confederacy, led by the legendary General Robert E. Lee, was pushing northward, hoping a victory on Union soil would break Northern morale and perhaps convince Europe to recognize the Confederacy. What followed was a clash that would become the turning point of the entire war: the Battle of Gettysburg. On July 1, 1863, neither army planned to fight at Gettysburg. It began almost by accident. Confederate forces searching for supplies encountered Union cavalry under General John Buford. Buford quickly realized he was facing the leading edge of Lee's army. Outnumbered but determined, his cavalry held the high ground long enough for Union infantry to arrive. Gunfire cracked across the rolling Pennsylvania hills as more soldiers poured in. By afternoon, the Confederates pushed the Union troops back through the town of Gettysburg, but the Union Army regrouped on a strong defensive line south of town, on Cemetery Hill, Cemetery Ridge, and the rocky heights of Culp's Hill and Little Round Top. The stage was set for a massive showdown. July 2nd dawned hot and tense. The Union Army held a fishhook-shaped defensive position, strong but vulnerable at the edges. Lee ordered attacks along both flanks, hoping to collapse the Union line. On the Union left flank rose a steep hill, Little Round Top. If Confederates captured it, they could fire down the entire Union line. General Gouverneur Warren discovered the position undefended and rushed troops there just in time. The fighting was ferocious. One of the most famous stands came from the 20th Maine Regiment, commanded by Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. Running low on ammunition and facing repeated Confederate assaults, Chamberlain made a bold decision: a bayonet charge downhill. The surprise attack stunned the Confederates and secured the Union flank. The left side held. Meanwhile, on the right, savage nighttime fighting raged on Culp's Hill, but the Union line stood firm. Lee believed the center of the Union line was weakened. On July 3rd, he made his most ambitious and ultimately tragic decision: a direct assault on Cemetery Ridge. It would involve nearly 12,000 Confederate soldiers, marching 3/4 of a mile across open fields under heavy Union artillery fire. This moment would be immortalized as Pickett's Charge. The Confederate troops advanced in perfect lines, their flags snapping in the wind. Union cannons thundered. The open field became a deadly gauntlet. Still, the Confederates pushed forward, breaking briefly into the Union line at a place known as the Angle. But there were too many Union defenders and too much firepower. The assault collapsed. Of the men who marched, more than half were killed, wounded, or captured. Lee rode out to meet his shattered troops and said simply, "It is all my fault." After 3 days of horrific combat, the Confederates retreated on July 4th. The Union had won, at a staggering cost. Casualties totaled around 51,000 combined, making Gettysburg the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. But the victory halted Lee's invasion of the North. Never again would the Confederacy launch a major offensive on Union soil. 4 months later, President Abraham Lincoln stood on that battlefield to dedicate a cemetery for the fallen. There he delivered just 272 words that would become one of the most famous speeches in American history: the Gettysburg Address. The Battle of Gettysburg was more than a military clash. It was a test of a nation's will. On those fields, amid wheat and stone walls, the future of the United States hung in the balance. And through courage, sacrifice, and determination, a turning point was won.